remarked that you were going to do this show.
Huh?
I forget where you remarked that you were going to that you were going to do this broadcast in 2 weeks, but I forget what was the reason, or probably because you'd be back from DAX by now.
Well, yeah. The DAX show was interesting. I mean, I do this every 2 weeks because I don't think
Yeah.
that personally, I don't have enough to say every week. But there are those who do, I guess.
Now,
I'm
there
not
were
one of them.
the blurb was harder to find because you didn't have a complicated picture. It was just a text thing.
I even got a message from Zoom saying, you're leaving yourself open. It's like, hey, if somebody wants to come on, I don't care. But
Oh,
the next one will definitely be back to a more formalized situation. Just didn't have the time based
you're in my
on being at
calendar.
DAX.
You're in
But
my
yeah, the
calendar. So
DAX show was small, but that was all right. Didn't expect it to be anything but that. Actually, number of exhibitors isn't that far off from what it used to be. Attendance was decent, at least in the workshops and seminars. So, that's really all that I get to see.
you get people that are serious still. There's still beginners every show I've ever gone to. There are people that need help.
I'm amazed how many beginners there are. So I did 2 half-day workshops. First one was basic, which, you anticipate who you're going to get and what they're going to be like. The second one was on simulated process. I think I had more people that didn't know anything about halftones than I've had in a long time. So I had to go back to some basic work in order to be able to actually fill them in, which is, ridiculous in a way. So while I have you on, coming back from the Atlantic City show, I was in the car with Jamar, who is leaving Impressions as of Thursday.
Oh my.
Yeah, he's gone. Lori Gons is gone. Maya, who handled the workshops, is gone. But while I was in the car with him, he wants to do, and it's now been turned over to Russ. They want to do a series of seminars, high-level seminars that are all conducted by members of the Academy.
Okay.
And so I'm the guy who's putting it together, and I thought I would like you to be one of those guys. What I need to do is put together who would fit which roles. So I have certain roles that are definitely easy. Someone like Art Doby doing emulsion, obviously, is a pretty easy no-brainer. Marshall doing something on marketing, not a problem. Alan Howe on reclaiming systems. Not sure where else I'm going. I don't even know where I fit in myself, to be honest with you. If you had an opportunity, it's going to be a total of 6 seminars. So the first day of the show, there's going to be 3, the second day 2, and the last day just 1. More of a wrap-up type situation, I think. I don't know if Marshall should be at the beginning or the end, but I'll figure that out. I don't know if marketing would be best at the end after you've acquired a lot of this information, or at the beginning. But where would you see yourself fitting in?
Clearly something in screen making is where I've always been strongest. So
Okay, good. Why don't we figure that? You know what? Let me write these things down, because you have your pad. I need mine, because to be honest with you, I'm as bad as they come when it comes to remembering this. I'll remember it 3 months from now.
So Art Doby and I did impression seminars a couple of times together, because we both came up with, or I know I pitched very early before COVID, stencils for water-based printing, because I was doing so much work with virus. And I thought that'd be a good impressionist thing. And Art just happened to come up with it, or I forget how it was, but we both pitched it. And so we did that together. Emulsion is a very narrow thing. There's screen making, but screen making, there's a lot to it. So there's tension and mesh. There's art creation, artwork creation. there are things like linearization. Uh, you just said that people don't really, there's no place for them to study. How do you make a halftone, or how do you make an accurate halftone? In the last 4 years, I've consulted with, I'm just counting now, 9 different companies that had CTS machines that were just having real problems on press. And the first one took me 3 days to figure it out. And now it's the first thing I'm checking when I get to CTS is, when did you calibrate your CTS so that what's happening in CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator, you say you want a 20% dot, then you send it to the CTS, then you put it on a stencil, then you wash it out, then you print it with liquid ink on an absorbent textile or paper. What are you actually getting? Did you measure what you get at the end? So there's my pitch for people that are listening. I'm saying this more for people that may listen to this. And, it's never been correct, never. And so I make my money in literally the first 2 hours by teaching somebody how to use a transmission densitometer. I said wrong thing, sorry. A reflection densitometer, which none of them have.
Not anymore. Back in the early days when we used cameras, we all had densitometers because you needed them. Today,
No, because
they don't
we
even know
wanted
what a
tools, Charlie.
densitometer is.
Yeah. I mean, we were measuring because we wanted the accuracy. There's plenty of people that, yeah, it looks good. And then you look at their stuff and all the vignettes, they go from 50% to 2%. I mean, sorry, they go from 50% to 30% and it just chops off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's interesting. I have a client that contacted me and wanted me to work with them on halftones. And he said, we could never really get a decent halftone. I said, what do you have? They have an eye image. I said, how do you know it was even set up correctly? So I had them contact M&R, and sure enough, it wasn't. The problem that you have with manufacturers who send out a tech, they get it going. Okay, the bulk of this industry is still vector work. Well, for vector, you can get away with a lot more than you can with a halftone. And so for years, and they've had it for years, they've never been able to get a decent halftone. It's like, well, why didn't you call the manufacturer a while ago and say, hey, can you go over all the parameters with me and let me know why I'm not having success? And, it's a funny industry because people will either call you about the dumbest things, or they won't call anybody at all and just kind of continue with the problem. So who knows? But, I do have you down for screen making. You decide what those parameters are. And
now, we've also got something perhaps like lean manufacturing, which would be a twist, different from screen making.
You put in something that you feel you're going to be comfortable with. Realize that these are about an hour and a half long.
It's
Period.
basically standard impression seminar stuff.
Yeah, except that this is going to be a series of seminars specifically geared to the experienced screen printer.
So we're doing them on video or what?
Will they shoot videos of it? Well, it's going to be at the show.
Oh, all right. Okay.
But they will probably shoot videos of all of this.
I didn't understand that right from the beginning.
Oh, no, it'll be
Jamar
at the
not
show.
being part of the team anymore, but he is part of the team for this extra.
And with Jamar out and with Russ now taking, heading the show, but also taking over on this project, who knows who's going to be where,
Okay.
My guess is that when I spoke to Jamar, he wanted to get this into writing in the next couple of months, which is fine. When they plan on kicking it off, I'm not sure. My guess would be, if they're going to do it, January show.
Okay. So
To me, or potentially Fort Worth. Kind of
Well,
a run through to see if it's as smooth as it should be.
this is a sea change for them because maybe 4 years ago or 5 years ago, don't quote me on that. I know that they were saying, no, we want more diversity. And so they told Mr. Kudre, we don't need you anymore. And, he tells the story that it was that crisp or cutting off. And I know that when I went and said, what about my things? You've turned me down, for my 5 things that I've applied. And they go, yeah, well, Rich, we're, trying to get some younger people in. They don't want to say they're pushing us back, but they wanted new names. They wanted a more diverse plan. So this is the exact opposite. This is going
Yeah,
back to the masters.
and it is, I think they've had so many changes in personnel. Don't forget, Marcia is no longer there. She's been gone from the beginning
3
of the
years.
pandemic,
Yep.
which was probably part of where you were involved in terms of them changing the roster, so to speak. The way it is right now, I'm not sure who's who and where anything is going exactly, but in talking to Jamar and the fact that Russ wants to continue getting and going more to a higher level, I think that's great. It gives us an opportunity to do some of the things that we've never had to do at the impression show. Gives us an opportunity to promote the academy, which is something that would certainly be nice, because I would say 99% of this market doesn't know who the academy is or what it is or anything like that.
The academy doesn't know who we are.
I'm not sure if I know myself who we are, but nevertheless, and certainly I do agree with them to some extent about getting in some new people, because there will come that day where we're not going to be standing up front anymore.
We're going to die someday. Not soon, but someday.
Well,
the other big problem, Charlie.
Hey, it's the inevitable. I mean, I'm aware of that, and so is everybody else. As we get older, as these get grayer and grayer, and there's less and less here, it's just reality. And so I certainly understand them bringing in some new faces. I'm not totally sure I'm in love with the people that they've chosen so far, but hey, not my decision. Nothing I have to say about it. Some are good, some are, I think, a little too wrapped up with themselves, but hey, I guess you have to be a bit wrapped up with yourself to be effective anyway.
I know
But in
I
any
am.
event, I'm thinking that this might be a kind of a fun opportunity to put out some really high level stuff. And they are definitely going to make sure that those who want to attend, and it won't be part of the, somebody can buy the package. This is a package of its own. So they're going to try and screen some of it. Will they do an effective job? Who knows? But I certainly don't want to have somebody that's coming in on a high level that's been doing this for the last year. And it's like, wow, you have a whole year of experience. Well, that certainly qualifies you for being on a an expert level. And I guess, the other things is, if you're going to do this on an expert level, obviously hitting the basics, but not the low end basics. The higher end basics is certainly part of it. The question then comes down to what topics do you really hit? I mean, I'm certainly marketing, reclaiming, screen making, and even with marketing, I'm thinking, Marshall, either marketing or artwork, because we really don't have anybody
Artwork, very good.
who can handle it. I work with Dane, but he's not a member of the academy, so that's out. They definitely want academy members. Okay, they want this to be an academy situation. So I'm actually thinking Marshall might be better off at artwork, because that would make more sense. Marketing, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So it's not a,
It's not a high level thing. It's not a learn how to do this type stuff, or, correct some of the issues that you might have.
I'd like
or
to push back.
move on to something more high level.
I'd like to push back to how the magazines have gone to marketing and business. And you look at Screen Printing Magazine the last 3 years,
Yeah,
and there's merely a handful, if that, one handful of technical articles. When I run, when I'm searching for things and I'm going into the 80s and 90s or even the 70s, that's where every magazine had 6 technical articles that were the fundamentals that
yeah.
everybody should be reading. So,
You know, when Ducilli left Screen Printing Magazine, a lot of the technical stuff went away. And nothing against Adrian. I think she's very good, but
she's
I'm
doing
not seeing
Teen
it.
Vogue. She's doing a popular magazine
And she
about
is,
what's happening in the trades, not something that Tomasz Freszka was an editor for.
I would certainly like to see more high-level technical articles coming out. And um, who knows? When I catch her at a show, maybe I'll, I think that's one of those things you do face to face. You don't write somebody about it.
Right. I'm on the technical board for Screen Printing Magazine. So is Nathan Lieber. So is Mark Kudre.
Yeah,
And we clearly beat that drum. And I said on those meetings with the other 11 people in there that, it's turning into a popular magazine of what's happening in the trade, which, a gossip rag or People magazine is not really what I'm interested in. And that's business stuff.
I understand them wanting to be popular in that sense of drawing a bigger audience. I mean, let's face it, they make their money on ads. And so if you don't have the audience participation, then your ad revenue goes down. And so I
Right.
certainly understand that. I mean, I was in the magazine trade for a number of years. Um, Fortunately, not at these times where nobody wants a piece of paper anymore, which is fine. Um, at the same time, you open up a magazine and whether it's Printing United's or Screen Printing or any of the bulk of the magazine is still geared around digital right now. And I
Mhm.
understand it's the up and coming thing, and I understand they have tons of money, but it still only makes up an extremely small minority of what goes on in this industry, even though it makes up the bulk of what all the books are about. I think on the textile side, they're saying that the digital side makes up what, like 5% or so of what goes on. Yeah,
I'm not aware,
we'll
but
be generous. They've doubled it. They're now up to 10%, which means the other 90% is still where we are, which is still screen printing.
you're talking about even the top machines can only do 60 to 100 shirts, full printed shirts in an hour.
Well, I mean, M&R has a new Polaris. Well, that could do, I think they said 260 shirts an hour.
Okay.
Great. It's an
But it's yeah,
$850,000 unit. I mean, come
exactly.
on.
That's not a digital press. That's, you know, 3 or 4 houses,
Well,
cost of 3 or 4 houses.
and certainly I understand that, but how many of those machines are going to sell? 100, 200, 500? Okay, great.
They're
You know,
Lamborghinis.
Good for them. And I'm sure they will sell a bunch. But at the same time, it's 850 grand. The general population could care less about that. Yes, it's nice to write up about it. Yes, it's great to get their advertising money. Um, they still make the bulk of their money on screen print. You know, try and buy a press. They're what, 30 weeks out or something in that neighborhood? I mean, I was there last week and I didn't even want to bring up the topic of how far out are you? Because my guess is it's a little bit sensitive at the moment.
Ah,
But, I mean, and they're out not because of their own doing, but, between the pandemic and getting raw materials and everything else, getting people, who the heck, I mean, look, we've been at this for a while. What was the last time people had really, I mean, a print shop had real difficulties finding a person to work there? Every now and then, yeah, you'd need somebody. Okay. Every shop I go into is looking for people.
Hmm.
You know, and they're paying pretty decent amounts for totally inexperienced people who don't show up. Amazing to me.
It's turned into day work like McDonald's. McDonald's were five guys. They're paying starting wage $18 an hour here
I know.
in Detroit.
It's, I think out here, it's about 15 an hour. Plus you get to eat. You know, I noticed when I passed the school near us, they're looking for bus drivers at 19.50 an hour plus benefits. You know, it's crazy how difficult it is to get low to high level employees to come into a print shop. I don't know. I'm almost glad I'm not printing anymore.
Huh.
Although my shop was easy. We were in the hood, so all you had to do is yell out the window that you needed people. Somebody would show up. I'm not sure. The only good thing was we hired so many muggers that we never got mugged because they were working for us.
They're
And
all-
if they
yeah,
mugged us, they wouldn't get paid.
Leave Charlie alone.
Yeah, well, what are
So
you
the
up
other-
to? What's your life revolving around now?
One more thing about this.
Yeah.
In that one of the reasons that I stopped really worrying about impressions is because for $250, it's a 90-minute seminar, but I easily put in 8 or 9 hours of prep
Of course.
for at least, for one of those seminars. There's a lot of prep, refining it, doing it better, especially if you need a new topic. I can't just, I certainly put in 9 hours, 3 or 4 times as much. And then I have to fly and pay for a room. In the
Yeah, but
old days.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking to Russ about that. For this particular group, it may be different than the other situations. And I'm going to let him
Okay.
know, for a lot of us, if we've got to pick up our own tabs on everything, it's just not worth the aggravation.
So I go to Atlantic City because I would go. In California, I've never missed one unless I was in the hospital. So
Right.
that's me, my investment and I certainly haven't gotten anything from the last shows, all the shows that I've gone to in the last 5 years.
Now, I'm going to be speaking to Russ about compensation.
In the
because-
old good days.
There has to be a decent compensation for this. If we're in a position where we have to take money out of our pockets in order to do it, that's insanity.
So I know Art didn't want to go to, I forget where it was, California, because it's out of his territory. And because Chromelight's not going to, wasn't going to pick up the tab.
Right.
Alan Howe, he's got to work it out with John.
I think those who work for corporate may not have as much of a difficulty because they are going to be able to talk about products that
Their
are
stuff.
not without addressing their own product, but they're going to be able to talk about that which is very specific to where they are. And they're dealing with a high level crowd, which would potentially buy decent amounts. You're not going to have the guy who's working out of his garage coming into this. And even if you do, you're going to have people there that have multiple automatics.
Mhm.
So they are definitely capable of being a pretty heavy purchase.
Well, it's gonna be a gangster's row of the best guys. You got 6 people that were all names that should bring in a proper crowd.
Yes, and that's why I wanted that first day to have the bulk of it so that you still have time to see the show. A little bit less on the second day and only one on the last day. And to me, that made sense. Trying to throw it all 2, 2, and 2, I thought that was just a little too spread out.
That's expecting people to stay all 3 days
Huh?
in these smaller shows. That's expecting people to stay all 3 days.
Correct.
These smaller
But you
shows
want to
is
give them,
15.
and that's the whole purpose of having a bunch on the first day is like, wow, that was really good. It's worth staying on. as opposed to going the opposite way where it was like, oh, well, I did one, but you know what? And who knows? I mean, although all of us that are involved may have decent expertise, that doesn't necessarily mean that all of us are capable of doing a great seminar and captivating somebody. Not to knock anyone at all, but you know, I don't know what other people do in a seminar, whether they're exhilarating or not. But I'm
Have you
figuring
talked to
it.
Art yet?
I have not, and I'm going to be texting him. I'm pretty sure I can get him into this.
Right, but well, again, like what we did with the water-based thing is that we split it up. So we had a good, I wanted to do it more often. We didn't have the opportunity to do that.
You know, the problem in an hour and a half seminar, it's difficult to really split something. Because if one person goes overboard, then the other person ends up short, and it's
No,
difficult to.
but Art and I would separate screen making, because if Alan's got the chemical, so cleaning and reclaim, that part.
If you want to work with Art, I have no problem with that.
But
You
just
know,
when you talk
listen,
to Art,
this
say,
is for us to
you
put
and-
together.
right.
We
Just
can
say
get, we
that.
can put this together however we feel is going to be to the greatest advantage to each of us and to the impression show.
When you text Art, just say you and Greaves will carve up screen making.
I'm doing it now. I'm packaging the two of you together so that and you guys can work it out however you need. I mean, I don't really care. I'm sure they're going to want descriptions of what each of us would be doing, you know, at least to lure people into it.
Right, because I see Alan is the perfect person to do automatic reclaiming.
Well,
etc.
reclaiming all the way around, whether it's automatic, manual, I think you need to address
Right.
all the aspects of it. Because some people are going to be there that do not have automatic machinery, but may be considering it. But in
Yes.
the meantime, they're still doing it with a dip tank or more traditional, just blasting the hell out of it. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if Kudre is interested in getting involved or not, but
He's been awfully busy, but
yeah,
he
you know
is
what?
he's certainly a big name.
He is. Not sure where I would try and put him though.
He's been trying to, for the last 10 years, he's been walking away from the technical end
I
and has
know.
gone into his catalyst mentality.
Yeah. And you know, that's the whole thing. I mean, he really isn't wanting to. I haven't seen him do a technical seminar in forever. And these definitely, I want them to be technical. Then I got to
his
have to go
profit
through-
one.
have to go through the membership to figure out who else is around that would fit into the textile area. Obviously, emulsions don't really matter because you're going to go either way. Reclaiming again, but need to put my, if you think of who could fit into a particular spot, let me know.
So who have you got for spots now?
Well, I'm thinking Marshall for artwork, but you know, on the artwork,
I think that's a good idea.
I think either him, the other one that I'm thinking on artwork is Scott Fresner.
But as much as Scott's, he is definitely.
Actually, I'd have Scott go through. I'd have Scott go through separations.
Okay.
Or maybe artwork and then move Marshall somewhere else.
Yeah, not to include Scott in an impressions thing, because he had such a following like you did, and Mark did in Impressions Magazine. But that's also people that are reading it now have no idea what we were doing in the 80s.
Well, I agree. But you know, the fact that this is going to be geared to an expert crowd, many of them would know who we are.
So we need an ink guy.
A what?
we need an ink person.
That's true. Ink. You're absolutely right. And the question is, who fits into that?
Pepe
Who?
Qualia, but
Yeah, I don't see him
he's not
flying
coming.
in to do these shows. Sorry. Much as I'd like him to, that just doesn't work very well for me.
I'm just
Uh,
going through my mental list of
You know,
the.
he'll do it over a Zoom session, and it's like, no,
Um,
I've got to take a look at the membership and see who's who.
yeah, Ray Smith is not a
He's not a member.
Academy member.
Nope.
I'm just thinking of ink people that,
I can't think of any ink people that we have. James Ortolani.
and you can get the band back together.
Huh?
You
Yeah.
can get the
But
all
James,
industry band,
James is ink. He works for Avion.
right?
And I'm thinking of maybe doing, I got a whole thing on 4-color process. If you guys are, you know what, Richard? Yeah, that may work out.
So you need a seventh guy.
We only
Art
need
Steps.
6. We only need 6. 3, 2, and 1. So it
Okay.
would be Marshall or Scott. If Marshall does artwork, meaning, you know, and I'm not sure how that might work out. If Scott is doing separations, I got to speak to each of them and see which. First of all, I have to speak to each of them to see if they're willing to do this. But
Right. I know that Scott has been pushing back the last 5 years.
yeah, well,
You know,
he had
not-
his open heart surgery and stuff. But yeah,
Right.
he's, you know, he's out there playing guitar every weekend. You know what I'm going to kill that 4-color process. We need, I think what I would do is documentation. I think that's one of the things that shops are not as tuned to as they should be. Because I don't have anything out on production, and documentation to me would fit into that. I'll put it together. But yeah, I do need to speak to Scott.
Now Marshall's got his new program, the production tracker.
Right.
You've also got the new Printavo stuff that is supposed to do scheduling. But if you include scheduling and tracking of production, I've been getting into using, you know, the last 3 years, I've been using the Timular machine, which is just it's an 8-sided cube. It's an 8-sided triangle thing.
Okay.
That when we're running, it's on one side. When we're got downtime, when it's set up, when we're having a real problem, a crisis problem, and it tracks the time. You just have to enter in when you started a new job. It's the least expensive tracker, but you still need human beings to do it. But Marshall's is way beyond that sort of time clock mentality.
Yeah, he sent me, you know, he mentioned the whole program to me and stuff. And, you know, I certainly think it sounds like something that's a very worthwhile situation. I'll speak to him. But, you know, we'll see how this all comes together. And more importantly, I do need to speak to Russ to see what kind of compensation would be involved, because I'm sure that's what everyone's question is going to be somewhere along the line.
So there you've got your 6 without Alan Howe and without Mark Coudray.
No, I've got Alan Howe in there.
Yeah, he'd be a seventh then.
No, it'd be Marshall, Alan, you and Art together. So that's one.
Oh, me and Art together.
Is that what you're thinking or no?
No. I was saying that if we carved it up, or I would go to something else because, Art is a screen maker more than anything else. I'm
Right.
more of a generalist with a master in working for Stretch Devices, working for Lawson, working for Yolano. I mean, I've got the chops also, but
Okay. I understand. Okay, so I don't have you together.
it
So
would be
Art
easier
would
for
be doing
me
emulsion. Art
to
would be
think of
doing
something
emulsions. You would
else.
be doing screen making.
You see, that's where if Art and I carved it up, it's a big subject. I can do 90 minutes on anything without much prep. So I'm leaning towards me coming up with something that fits in with the rest of these.
Let me see what I put together and get back to you on that, because I think on Art, I think either Marshall or Scott, and I think I need to speak to them.
I'm suggesting what's on the top of my mind is something that I do automatically, and that is testing. I haven't got a good title for it in my mind, but for every problem that anybody has in a shop, there's a test you can quickly do. I just answered a question on Facebook before we started this show. And it's clearly somebody doesn't know how to test if their light integrator is working. And so there's an easy test that, when you and I answer calls or answer questions at a show, here, do this and you'll know which way to go. Don't overthink it, just do this, because people are saying, how long should I expose? Well, what should I do? So I see that perhaps as problem-solving experiments or testing throughout the entire printing spectrum. That would be art, screen. So that would be in art, fiduciaries on the side, halftone patterns at the tint bar from Adobe Illustrator, and then measuring those, tying.
Yeah,
all
I
those
think once we have a topic and once somebody is committed to it, they're going to get questions specific that they haven't really necessarily addressed during these seminars. And to me, I think it's just important to outline some of the key points that you plan on hitting. And then, of course, I think you always have to leave time for question and answer.
Q&A. Oh, yeah.
You just have to do that, because if you booked in, if it's an hour and a half seminar and you've got an hour and a half worth of presentation, they're screwed, or you're screwed because you're never going to get to the end, because you're going to get questions along the way. What I'm going to do after you send me photos of your bright, shiny face,
Right.
is I'm going to put this together over the next day or two. I'm going to get in touch with Russ and run it past him in a soft manner as to what I'm thinking. And then I'll go forward and contact everybody to see if they're game. And if not, I'll just have to make some adjustments. But I think it sounds pretty good. Who knows? I think it's a nice idea. I think it's something that's worthwhile. The fact that it's
the more I'm thinking about this, testing and instrumentation, something like that. Now your topic was that you just mentioned.
I was going to do something on documentation.
So does that interfere with what you were doing? Because I'm going to say densitometer, transmission and a reflection densitometer, 21-step grayscales, tension meter, the tools, off contact. How do you set the off contact when you're setting up a press? You got the old Freshka calibration gauge, or just how do you square a press? Because I spent an hour and a half with a guy from California at 9 p.m. at night. For him, it was 2 a.m. for me, and he's setting up his new press. He had to get a job out.
Yeah,
So I see that's something that doesn't interfere with art,
true.
but does it interfere with documentation?
Well, let me put it this way. I think we can go on and on and on topics. There comes that point where you just have to say, okay, these are the ones I'm going to deal with now. And if in fact it's successful, then perhaps down the road, we add that much more into it, or we drop certain ones and add in other ones. Because
You're the director here, so I've just given you two alternatives. Art and I split it up.
let me put it this way, you decide what you would like. Because if you don't want to do, if you have something that you'd like to do, I can certainly do screen making. I have no problem with that at all. And so, and I do think screen making is an important thing. I think there's way too many people using rigid frames when they shouldn't be, if they want to get out high level work. Okay.
Right.
And so sometimes it requires a song and dance and a bit of a demo during the whole thing as to what a goddamn tight screen feels like. And it doesn't feel like this where you're bouncing on it. Okay. And yes, Newman roller frames are a pain in the ass. There's a lot of maintenance and there's a lot of positives that come out of it. And, get a clue.
Yeah. They're not for the novices.
Exactly. If you want to, you write up what you'd like to do, I'll do the screen making. I have no problem with that at all.
It's easier for me to fill in what you and Russ want because I've got no emotional.
Well, I don't have any emotional ties to this. This is just a matter of, look, we've been doing this long enough. There shouldn't be any emotion involved in this at all. This is all, if you feel that the tools of the trade and what you should have and how to use them is something that you feel is really a very strong situation for you, come on, we'll put it in there.
Then I would vote for that because you got Art with screens and you with documentation.
Yeah, listen, Art can handle emulsions. I can certainly handle screen making, not a problem. And if you want to come in on the tools of the trade, however you want to call it, I think that would be really good because I don't think that a lot of people know what the hell is even out there and what you do with that.
Good.
So to me, I think that's a winning situation.
Now, tell me, who is Russ? I don't know.
Russ is now, he runs the show. So the imprinted Impressions Expo, he is the head of the Impressions Expo.
Oh,
so
I
he's
see.
taken over the role that too many people have had over the years.
Mm-hmm. But Jeff, the last guy I knew was Jeff Brown.
Oh, and Jeff has been gone for quite some time. So yes, he has Jeff's position now.
Right, so he's the showrunner.
Nice guy,
now.
very nice guy.
Who's going to be the editor of the magazine?
I don't think he has anything to do with the magazine per
No, but
se.
I'm just wondering, with Shamar leaving.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no. When I get in touch with Russ, I plan on asking who's going to be your editor in chief now, and who's taken over Lori Gonza's spot.
Big hole to fill there.
Huge, and that one she's been there since
40 years.
More than that. I don't know how far back she goes, but long time.
Yeah, been there as long as I've ever had any association with Impressions.
So yeah, going to be interesting to see who they put into which positions there. But oh well, who knows? When you've been at this long enough, you watch the changing of the guards on a regular basis.
Aye.
And that comes along with everything else. But we'll see how amenable Russ is to. I know he wants to do this. Now I just have to find out what kind of compensation it would be and give him a rundown on what I think is going to work for us and work for him. and see how much promoting they can do as well, because they're going to have to promote it as a academy situation. So that should be kind of fun.
Okay,
Other
I'm
than
glad you
that-
recorded this for your notes, but you're not going to publish this, are you?
Am I going to publish what?
This video, the 50 minutes we've just done.
Yeah, I can. You want
Okay.
it?
Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
I asked, who's Russ? So I'm just embarrassed about that, but sorry.
That's okay. Listen, you don't have to. I met him at the last show for the first time. So,
Okay,
you know, he isn't going to view this, it's us. But I will send you a copy of this if you'd like.
yeah, no, if are you going to publish this on your website?
Yes.
Okay,
So, yeah, it'll be there.
all right,
Other than that, Richard, I'm going to eat some lunch.
excellent idea. I'm glad I showed up today, so.
So am I, because it was just the two of us. So that
All
made
right.
it kind of a nice and easy
Kismet.
situation. I think I'm
Okay.
going to have Lon Winters on in 2
Next
weeks.
week or two, bi-week,
Yeah.
okay?
So that one I'll be able to publicize heavily.
It's a local show.
Terrific. Richard,
All
have a
right.
good one. Stay in
I'll speak
touch.
to you very soon, before the end of the week.
Terrific. Cheers,
Bye-bye.
babe.